Nick, I believe we should choose truth over facts.
Jeff, I really don't want to take this podcast and make it political.
Oh.
Hello, my brothers and sisters in smoke. It's time again for another sermon from the cigar pulpit. I am Nick, your bishop of the burn, and with me, as always, is my co-host Jeff.
Gator.
Yeah, okay. And today, we are going to be enjoying a cigar that's new for Jeff, but I've had a couple of times.
This is a new cigar for me.
It's the Superfly by Oscar.
Now, we did switch things up a little bit tonight. So what we're doing is I am actually smoking a Toro, which I believe is a 6x54 or something along those lines,
that up,
if I'm not mistaken.
Like that. Yeah.
And I believe, what are you smoking there, Nick?
Hang on, let me look this up. So
you can tell we put the show prep in for this one.
Yeah, you have a Toro, which is a 6x54, and I normally like to try and buy two of the exact same cigar, same size, and everything else. And
the Toro's more in my wheelhouse. This is more my range of cigar.
When I decided to go with this cigar, I knew I had one of these sitting in my humidor, and I knew you hadn't had it yet. So that's why I decided I'd go ahead and buy one more, and then that way we could go ahead and smoke it. And so I did, but unfortunately I bought the wrong size. I have a Super Gordo, 6.5 by 60. But a half-inch longer and slightly larger
cigar.
I do. I prefer the 60 ring gauge.
I'm more a Toro fan.
I mean, so in this case, the one time my mistake actually produces some positive
paid
results.
off. To each their own.
Exactly. So yeah, we will be smoking the Superfly by Oscar. The cigar is from Honduras. It has a Mexican San Andreas Maduro wrapper. The binder is from Honduras, and the filler is a mix of tobacco from the Dominican Republic.
Pack of wild dogs apparently attacking us during the podcast.
Again, just to remind everybody, we do record these outside so that we can enjoy the cigar as we record. So yeah, we did have some dogs running by.
Oh, there it is again.
But we have the filler is Dominican Republic, Honduras, and Nicaragua. The cigar is classified as a medium. However, I will say after having smoked one of these before, this is probably one of the, if not the strongest cigar that Oscar puts out.
That's going to be a stretch for me.
But with that being said, it's not necessarily a super strong cigar per se. It's just, one of the strongest he puts out.
Nick, if you would, just a little housekeeping issue. Mic me up just a hair there, because you're coming in a little bit hot, so we'll just fix that on the fly. Perfect. I think we're dead on there.
Okay.
There you go.
I hope you didn't totally talk over it. Now I'm going to have a weird edit going on.
I'm sure.
Which is very possible.
Very possible. No, you can leave that in.
I mean, I guess we could.
You know what? Sometimes it's good to know how the sausage is made.
Dude, there's a mosquito buzzing around. I think he bit my cheek.
Nick is, I think we've mentioned this before, but Nick is a mosquito magnet.
Oh.
I've never seen anyone that draws these bugs in like Nick does.
I think I've showered off at this moment.
Oh, essentially.
I've pretty much essentially showered in a can of off. And yet, even with that, I think the mosquitoes are finding the one or two random spots on me that I don't have any bug spray on. But anyway, let's drive them out with some smoke.
Time to clip?
Time to clip. So, it is time for the official cutting of the cigar. Brought to you by whoever wants to sponsor it.
Feel free to reach out on any of the Cigar Pulpit socials.
Or email me at nick@cigarpulpit.com.
Look at us shilling for sponsors.
Right.
While we're shilling, I'm just going to mention the tens of people listening. While we're shilling, I'm going to mention Delicia, if you are in the podcast listening audience, we would love to do a joint podcast with you.
She doesn't know you exist.
Well, not yet. You fake it till you make it, brother. If anybody listening to this podcast, Nick is toasting his foot. If any of the folks listening to this podcast have not looked up the Cigar Vixen and watched her show, she's on YouTube. She's everywhere. Look up Delicia. It's the Cigar Vixen. You're going to thank us. That's one thing I like about what we do on this podcast is we actually talk about other podcasts that we like. I mean, we're not in this exclusively, and there are other people that are doing really interesting things in and around the cigar field. So, it's one of those things that I enjoy giving some shout-outs now and then.
It's true.
It
Jeff
is true.
does indeed like shilling.
Again,
or
Delicia. Please call us.
Anyway, so I have lit my cigar, and
It's time for me. I'm going to do a cold draw first.
say, give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Getting hints of tea-berry gum, Nick.
And again with the tea-berry gum. I did, so we've had 2 episodes come out so far, so we have had one listener reach out and tell me that they had to Google what tea-berry gum was. It should be available at all your finer Cracker Barrel locations, in case you are interested in trying the actual tea-berry gum.
I like the Cracker Barrel, you elitist.
I like Cracker Barrel too.
You know what?
My wife
Seriously.
hates meatloaf, so it's the only place I can go to get meatloaf.
I love their meatloaf.
I know.
It's one of my go-tos, that and the chicken and dumpling.
It's the only place see, what you do is you get the meatloaf, but you get it with a side of dumplings. And, there's no chicken in it, but every once in a while you get lucky, and there's that stray piece of chicken that just, ends up in it.
And I'm not going to lie, I don't mind the chicken not being in it, because, let's be honest, I'm wading through that for the dumplings anyway.
Well, yeah, so, it takes all the effort and energy out of finding the dumplings, and it's just straight dumplings.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I had a hack about that at one point. My waiter told me something about that if you were to order, what was it? If you ordered the children's meatloaf, it was a way for me to order a second slice of meatloaf and actually have it be significantly cheaper than ordering the adult dinner and adding a second slice of meatloaf. And I can't remember it now, but there's got to be a way.
That helps the fans not.
Not at all.
Not at all. So.
Well, it just helps them realize that I'm a fatty who wants 2 pieces of meatloaf.
There's nothing wrong with an extra piece of meatloaf.
I love meatloaf.
I also love meatloaf.
Anyway, now that we've just spent 3 minutes on meatloaf. So, first impressions of the cigar, Jeff.
Okay, so let me just say, I normally smoke a milder cigar. I normally go with a light Connecticut kind of wrapper. This is a little out of my comfort zone. It's
heavier.
It's a heavier cigar than I'm used to smoking. It's not that I don't like it. It's not nothing against the cigar, because we actually got to meet Oscar a while back, and we'll tell you about that here in a few minutes. But of all the others, the Wild Hunter and different things that I've tried.
Now, the Wild Hunter has a slightly darker wrapper as well.
Yeah, but it's not as heavy as the cigar, at least to my palate.
This is definitely one of the heaviest that he puts out, I would say.
What are your thoughts, Nick?
I also would say that it's definitely heavier than like you're saying, like a Connecticut or any sort of mild, It's
not like that beef jerky we smoked in the last episode.
Although, man, that had a bit of punch for it.
In the end, it wasn't a bad smoke. But
no, it wasn't.
Man, it smelled like you were in a smokehouse.
I still have the rest of the pack in my glove box, just waiting for the day that I need an emergency smoke.
I want to try the anise.
I bet you do. But anyway,
Why do you always make it blue, Nick?
I didn't. Anyway, so this is a good cigar. I like this cigar. I do tend to float along the spectrum. I have my favorites.
Nick is more adventurous than I am when it comes to cigars.
Yeah,
I kind of have what I like, and I stick with it.
I have what I like, but I'm willing to give a darker cigar or a heavier cigar or something a little bit of a chance. This is darker, but I would not venture out to say that this is a very heavy cigar.
For me.
Maybe for you.
But your palate, you like a little bit of a darker smoke, so a little bit of heavier smoke.
But I'll tell you, though, it's not nearly as oppressive as some other ones, and it's not nearly as oppressive as you would think by looking at it. It is a very dark-looking cigar.
So, Nick.
Yeah.
Since we're smoking this fine cigar by Oscar, tell the folks about the time. It was within the last month that we were able to actually meet Oscar over, again, third free plug in a row for the Hill Cigar Company.
The Hill Cigar Company.
The Hill Cigar Company is our home cigar lounge. And we just think the world of those people. They're the nicest folks in the world. And we're going to plug them in the next episode, too, because it's already a foregone conclusion.
I was going to say it's kind of a foregone conclusion. So, yeah, there was an event
They're in downtown St. Louis on the Hill, by the way, for anyone out of area listening to this podcast.
There was an event in, when was that? Late July. It would have been late July. Oscar came down, or came up, I should say, and hosted the event and introduced his Wild Hunter and Superfly and the Cicerone edition. And then obviously also, had on display the Alter Q and the 2012 and the Leaf,
I'm a big fan of the Leaf.
Yeah. And so, it was really cool. He hung out, he kind of talked to everybody, gave us a lot of good insight.
Could not have been more gracious.
No, not at all. And the Hill had commissioned an exclusive piece of artwork for the Cicerone edition, for the box and everything. And so we were selling that, or they were selling that, and they were actually raffling off the original piece of artwork. If you bought a box, you could have a chance to win the painting. So Oscar, he was very gracious, gave us a little bit of time. We recorded a video interview, which is available on the Cigar Pulpit's YouTube page. So just go to YouTube and search for the Cigar Pulpit, and you'll find it.
You could look for it on Facebook, but you'll have to scroll and scroll.
Yeah,
and
you
scroll.
might as well just go to YouTube.
Facebook is not user-friendly for something to look up. Have you noticed that, Nick?
We'll get to my problems with Facebook here in just a bit.
Fair enough.
So,
sounds like you have a vendetta.
I have a bone to pick, but I'll get to that in a second. Go to our YouTube page. Go ahead and subscribe. We're still kind of building it, so I'm not going to be barraging you with tons of videos right off the bat, but it wouldn't hurt to just go ahead and subscribe. And then that way when something new gets put up, it automatically comes to you and you don't have to worry about looking for it. I would also say, while we're on the subject of subscriptions, give us a subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and make sure you review, because the reviews help other people discover us. And
I happen to listen to it on Apple.
Spread out, and it's a good thing. Jeff wants to go viral.
Well,
but not in the herpes kind of way.
Well, exactly. You don't want something you need a shot for.
Exactly.
We would just we'd like people to listen to the podcast, give us their feedback, and let us know what we can do to, what they may like to hear out of the podcast in the future.
It's true. One of the
Why
things.
did you automatically go to a venereal disease? You could have went with Zika.
I could have, and that's more likely for me to get.
Absolutely. You're already walking West Nile virus.
Yeah. But anyway,
Nick and I have a pact that I will take him out at the first sign of any struggles on his part.
Yeah, but the problem is when you say the first sign of any struggles, you mean when I sneeze.
I think that's where it starts. I don't want you to be ground zero, my friend.
Oh, God. One of the things that Oscar talked to us about is the packaging for the Alter Q. If you guys haven't seen this, it's an amazing box. I have pictures of it up on our Instagram page. It's an amazing box. So he went to a museum and found a pillar, or a tablet, or essentially it's a giant stone pillar. And all around it, it has etchings in the stone of the various kings for the area. And there were 16 kings. And so what he decided to do was design his packaging in the same way. So the box itself looks very similar to this stone altar. And then each one of the cigars in the box, it's 16 cigars in the box. Each one of the cigars has a different band on it featuring a picture of that king, and then a footband that has the name of that king on it.
It is absolutely beautiful.
And so in the box you have the 16 kings, or in this case the 16 cigars. It really is really great, because you get,
more
get that,
wild dogs.
Well, you get that little piece of history
barking in the background.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out. You could have just ignored it, but you instead decided to point it out to everybody.
No one else is going to be able to ignore it. We might as well just own it.
What's nice is you get a little bit of history to go along with your.
Nick's annoyed with me tonight, I think, on the podcast. If no one's picked up on that, I think I'm on his last nerve.
Oh my gosh!
And he gave me a free cigar to smoke, and I'm picking on him.
I know, right? That's okay. I told him in the first episode. I picked up the cigars for the first round of shows. We'll see what. That's when he'll start bringing me a bag full of quorums and. And,
I like the quorum.
Swishers and everything else. We'll be doing dirt reviews before it's all said and done.
Next up on the cigar pulpit, backwood smokes.
There we go. No, so you know what? You brought it up, so I'm going to go ahead and circle back to my beef with Facebook and in turn Instagram. This past week, I attempted to boost a post promoting the podcast. I wanted to advertise the podcast. I went in, I built the audience,
Mind you, the product we're reviewing is completely legal.
Exactly. I went in.
And I would argue natural as well.
I went in, I built the audience. I purposely chose in my audience folks that are 21 and above so that in case this ad were being served to anyone in a state where it was illegal to purchase tobacco under the age of 21, as it now is in Illinois, thanks. I purposely chose people 21 and above in my audience, and I'm
sure they're getting ads for vape.
Submitted my ads. It took about, I'd say, 4 hours for Instagram to get back to me and tell me that I have violated their advertising protocols because it's now against Facebook and in turn Instagram advertising guidelines to promote the sale or use of tobacco and tobacco products. Now, Jeff pointed it out just a bit ago and basically said that he's sure that it's okay for somebody to be advertising, vape, for example. I'm not necessarily sure that's the case, but what I will say is just in the last 24 hours of receiving the notification that I could not promote this podcast because it had the word cigar in the title, I was served ads for a couple of different products. The first was a set of coasters. Now you're thinking, okay, coasters, no big deal. Except that the image that goes along with this ad is a glass of brown liquor over ice with a cigarette butt floating in the glass on top of the coaster.
Classy.
And so right off the bat, I have to think, well, wait, so it's okay to have an image of a cigarette butt floating in the glass, but yet I can't have the word cigar. Okay, that's the first thing. Second was a ashtray that was made out of a vinyl record, and the record had been warped in such a way to have like an edge and make a bowl shape out of it.
Which, by the way, is really cool.
It actually is a neat looking ashtray, and it's got like kind of the rippled edge along it so that you can set your cigars in it. The point being, the product itself is an ashtray, and the image that goes along with this ad is not of the ashtray itself. It's of the ashtray with, I believe, 9 or 10 cigars resting in the grooves along it. So, again, right there is a product that is promoting the use of tobacco that is being freely advertised on Instagram. And then finally, the one that I will say I can maybe understand if they were to have appealed and whatever, it was an ad for chew, but it was supposedly tobacco-less chew.
Like mint?
Essentially. I guess it was like mint flavored or something, but it was tobacco-less chew, and they were promoting that. Now, again, I can kind of understand since I guess it is tobacco-less, but the PC police really bother me. And see, we live in Illinois where...
we're going to get arrested just for having a podcast in Illinois.
I was going to say, we're going to get taxed for it at least. I love how we started this show talking about how we don't want to make it political, and here I am just getting totally into the politics.
We want to make it political.
Of tobacco and this war on tobacco. But
let me jump in and throw you off track for a second.
You're good at that.
Just last night, Nick is on a Facebook hiatus.
I am.
I'm not. I should be because it infuriates me.
My personal page, I've taken 2 weeks off from Facebook because, without getting into the exact reasons why, I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't deal with everybody expressing their political opinion.
Yet here we are.
Well, the problem isn't people that don't know anything. Or the problem isn't people expressing their political opinion. The problem is people that don't know anything expressing an opinion, and therefore it's an opinion that's based on nothing. That's where I'm fine with.
I feel this way.
Yeah, exactly.
My truth.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you.
Choose your truth over facts.
Over
right?
facts, exactly.
So. Anyway, but no, it's one of those things. We live in Illinois. Illinois has an extremely strict set of laws as it relates to tobacco. Jeff and I have at one point or another actually discussed the idea of how cool it would be to start a cigar lounge.
I would absolutely love to do that.
The problem is, in Illinois, because of the Illinois Smoke Free Act, which was put into law and I believe implemented in 2008, what has to happen is we need to find a building that is freestanding and has no other businesses or apartments or anything within it, can't have anything else in it except for our store. We have to have a 15-foot buffer between us and any other building around us. So it can't be like in a strip mall where, like, you know, we're at the end and, you know, maybe there's a Domino's Pizza next door or something like that. Or a downtown where the
buildings are contiguous.
Precisely, or a downtown where the buildings butt up against each other. We have to have 15 feet of space between our building and any other building all around us. Additionally, our sales floor has to be separate from the lounge, and it has to be walled off. It has to be sealed. Like, we have to have a door separating our smoking area from our retail portion. So, like, you know, I'm sure all of you go to cigar lounges where maybe, you know, you're in the back sitting there having a drink and smoking your cigar, and maybe you're like, oh, my lighter's out of butane, I need to go buy some butane. You'll just grab your cigar, walk on up to the counter, buy your butane, walk on back, right?
Not in Illinois.
Not in Illinois. Can't do that in Illinois. You can't sell liquor and have a smoking area in Illinois. So if you are in a lounge where perhaps they have the ability to sell either full bottles of alcohol or even have a liquor license to be able to serve you a drink, no, can't do that in Illinois. We cannot be mixing, you know, alcohol and tobacco. Heaven forbid. And then additionally, in Illinois, you have to have, in order to maintain your smoking room, 80% of your profits have to come from the sale of tobacco or tobacco-related accessories, which, when you take into account the fact that you can't have alcohol, essentially means you have to be making all of your money on the sale of cigars, ashtrays, cutters, lighters, etc. There's no, you know, and you have to maintain records for that. Because they'll verify it through your sales tax and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, and that doesn't even get into the fact that you have to register with the Secretary of State and have a separate license just to sell tobacco-related goods, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what I started to point out earlier, and we got off track, which we often do, on Facebook the other day, I actually had a story pop up, and it was talking about how they're thinking about adding a $5 charge per person to go visit Garden of the Gods here in Illinois. Folks, anybody in the listening audience, if you're within a day trip drive of Southern Illinois, come and visit Garden of the Gods. It is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous at sunset. It is this rock. I don't even know how to explain it. It's basically these bluffs that over time have been eroded, and they just are gorgeous, just exquisite. And you're not going to believe you're in Illinois when you're visiting Garden of the Gods. It's just absolutely beautiful. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Go visit it. You're gonna love it. But they're talking about adding a $5 charge for folks to go visit Garden of the Gods. And at that point, I realized that we are to the point in our society that we are going to tax fresh air.
Yep.
Because that's what a $5 charge to go to Garden of the Gods and literally walk around a rock outcrop is going to cost you to get out and experience nature and have some fresh air.
Yep.
$5 a head. That's apparently the new going rate for taxes on fresh air.
Well, and the problem is we as a society have accepted that we have to pay this sort of thing in order to you know, maintain our way of life and maintain the structure of our government. And heaven forbid our politicians actually take a good hard look at their budgets and start actually legitimately cutting their budgets. You have no idea. I used to work in politics, folks. So before we've covered in a previous episode how we both own small newspapers. I started my newspaper in April of 2015. The reason I started a newspaper in April of 2015 is because in April of 2014 I was let go from the state of Illinois. And so I had done 6 years of press and communications for the Illinois House of Representatives, essentially working to make the politicians look good, which, let me tell you, in Illinois is not an easy job.
We'll get into those stories down the road in the podcast.
Some other day. We'll change the names to protect the not-so-innocent. I know these guys. These guys, when they say we're going to cut the budget, they're not cutting the budget as it could be cut. You know, Illinois, for example, we're facing a massive pension problem that there's no fixing. I am convinced that
we're down the rabbit hole.
This state is too far gone, and at some point we're going to have to go ahead and find a way to declare bankruptcy.
We've never used the F word yet on the podcast, but this would be a good time if we were going to break it out. Because we are,
we'll save it. We'll save that.
We'll save that, yes.
But anyway, so...
We're keeping it clean,
man,
folks.
we have gotten down a dark, angry rabbit hole here, so... With that being said, how's the cigar there, Jeff?
You know what? I'm actually about halfway through, and it's...
Man, you're smoking quicker than me.
It's normally the other way around. Though. You're normally the quicker smoke.
That's true. Yeah. Until we started doing these podcasts, and now all of a sudden you're...
Yeah, once we started doing the podcast, well, I believe it's because Nick is, he's working the board, and he's talking a little bit more than I am, so he's not puffing quite as frequently as I am. I'm actually enjoying the cigar. But again, this would not be one of my go-tos. This is not a cigar that I would pick.
Legitimate flavor hints that you get off of it? Not tea berry?
No. No, it's just a little darker. Like you said, a heavier smoke. Little peppery, but not real bad. I have paired up tonight, by the way, because we haven't talked about our pairings yet. Yeah. I've actually paired up with some dark roast coffee from Starbucks.
I have an iced tea from Sonic.
Yes. So... Yeah, we did not do an alcohol pairing tonight, but I didn't want to get in the habit where that's all we ever talk about. But I actually like...
Well, and I very rarely pair with anything other than Di Serono, just because, again, I burnt myself out pretty bad in college, and I don't really do much
Nick's
in the way
a creature of habit when it comes to the Di Serono, but Nick does not drink coffee, which that makes me question everything about him. But I prefer a cigar...
I love the smell of coffee.
Oh, well, absolutely. But I prefer a cigar with coffee, in most cases, to a cigar with alcohol.
Well, there you go.
And like I said tonight, I actually smoked my coffee a little bit earlier. I don't know if Nick was watching that go down.
Did you really?
I really did.
I didn't notice that.
And, I can't say I noticed any flavor changes, but I thought, I'm going to try it. I've smoked everything else we've drank on the show. I'm going to smoke my coffee.
Well, there you go.
But no, I'm enjoying the cigar. Again... I don't know if it's going to be a go-to for me. And don't get me wrong, I love Oscar's cigars.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, he's got... See, that's the nice thing about Oscar's line. And it's good for... I mean, most quality cigar makers are going to do this kind of thing where they have a diverse portfolio so that they have something for everybody. Oscar has... the Connecticut Lee for the 2012, which, I mean, the 2012 is by far one of the most mild, easy, smooth cigars I've ever had in my life. I mean, like, by far. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if I were going to introduce somebody new to cigars, okay, and you're walking your buddy in to the shop, and he's never had a cigar before in his life, and you want to get him into the hobby and get him into the environment and have him try something new, I would go one of two directions. And I would preface this by saying, know your individual. But if you think they need something with a little bit of flavor to kind of ease them into the whole into everything, go with a Tabac Especial from Drew Estates.
You're a big fan of that cigar.
Dude, everybody that I've ever introduced to cigars, when I give them that, they love it. It's sweet. It's got some, infused sweetness and everything, but at the same time, it's a legit cigar. I mean, it's a great smoke. And I mean, I even have 4 or 5 of them in my humidor at the office right now. But with that being said, the other option is the 2012 by Oscar. I think the 2012 by Oscar is by far one of the best intro cigars for a novice smoker you can find, because it doesn't have the infused flavors, so it doesn't kind of trick everybody into thinking that, when they say that this has hints of cherry or chocolate, that they're going to get a cherry chocolate bomb or something like that, whereas it gives them the idea of, okay, you are smoking tobacco, and while there might be some maybe hints of flavors that maybe make you think of cherry or think of chocolate. It doesn't necessarily taste like it. And I cannot promote the 2012 by Oscar enough in terms of, as it stands, a good cigar that you can introduce somebody to smoking with.
Well, there you go. Mm-hmm. That being said, how is yours?
I enjoy it. Like we talked about earlier, I do kind of float around the spectrum of cigars a little bit. I typically start my day with something a little lighter than this and then move up to, this. But even then, again, this isn't the heaviest cigar I've ever had. So it's definitely a solid medium, I think, for me. And that's how it's classified on some of the websites and various things that I, because I have to look up, what type of leaf is what and everything. So, I mean, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm not that much of a geek about it.
A cigar snob.
You're a cigar snob. It is a medium, cigar, but it's arguably the heaviest that Oscar has in his portfolio. And so with that being said, going back to what I was saying, he offers something for everybody. You can go from the super mild 2012, through the leaf cigars, because the leaf, he's got Connecticut, he's got Maduro, he's got a handful of different.
I can't recommend the Leaf brand enough.
And then, from there's the Alter Q. The Alter Q, to look at it, slightly darker wrapper than a Connecticut, probably more of a natural wrapper, but the Alter Q has this. It's got a spice to it. It's got some kick to it, And then the Wild Hunter, kind of a darker wrapper, not as dark as the Superfly.
But that's not as heavy as this cigar.
It's not as heavy, but I just had one of those the other night, and what did I comment to you the other night? It was spicy. I mean, I was getting some spice off of it. Now, could that have been maybe what I had for lunch that was reacting, my palate reacting? It's possible because, again, I want to point out, I'm no expert at this whole situation. I'm learning, I'm developing my palate as I go, so you guys are along for the ride on that. But, but the Superfly, I think, is heavier than the Wild Hunter, but by all means, it's not the heaviest cigar you'll ever smoke in your life, but it's good. I like it.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Next week,
we have a treat for you.
A treat. So we are going to be spending our time next week talking about Christian Arroyo and the CLE brand of cigars, Arroyo cigars, and Asylum cigars. It's all under kind of that CLE umbrella. We met with Christian at an event at the Hill Cigar Company. Plug. And
we do love the Hill Cigar Company.
We do.
It's St. Louis, Missouri.
And so he was gracious enough to take a little time to talk with us and speak to us about himself, his history, his line of cigars, and then some of the work that he's doing. So we're going to bring that to you guys, and then we will be smoking a cigar that was part of a sampler pack that we received at the event. It is a Arroyo, the first 20-year series, and it is a Robusto.
A box press, if I'm not mistaken.
A little box press Robusto. And, depending upon how quickly we burn through that, I don't know if we'll get fully to a second cigar, but I did purchase a box of...
Are we going to double down?
Cigar. We may double down next week. We may very well double down, so it wouldn't hurt to be prepared.
You know when that would be perfect is when we play the interview. We'll be able to...
There we go. Yep. We can kind of finish the first one. We'll start the first one.
Again, folks get to hear the sausage being made.
Finish the first... Yeah, exactly. Finish the first cigar during the interview itself, and then after the interview, we can start up the second cigar and kind of discuss our thoughts and everything like that after that. Beautiful. So, with that being said, the second cigar, I purchased a box of CLE Connecticut's. I bought these 6x60s because, again, that's how I roll. If you would prefer to purchase a different size, feel free, but we do like to let you guys know what we're going to be smoking in advance so that in case you would like to smoke along with us, you have that option.
And, if you have differing thoughts on the cigars than we do, definitely reach out to us, on the comments on the podcast or on the socials, and let us know what your thoughts on these cigars are.
Definitely. We're going to be starting to compile, some of the comments, reviews, things of that nature, and start doing a little mailbag section here in the Cigar Pulpit where we read off some comments. So if
I think that's a wonderful idea,
Nicholas.
You
have critiques, if you have questions, if you have criticisms, if you want to call us ignorant, or if you want to tell us that we're wonderful, we really like it.
We get the ignorant part a lot.
Wonderful. We do get the ignorant part a lot.
We really do.
Feel free to send those our way. You can either comment on any one of the different platforms. Right now, the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Spotify, as well as our host Podbean. And then also you can reach out through, we have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, and we have an Instagram, all the Cigar Pulpit. And then obviously email is just nick@cigarpulpit.com.
The Instagram page is basically Nick in provocative poses with his cigars.
I've never done that.
Oh.
I mean, I can start doing that if it's going to get me likes.
Like the George Costanza on the couch in the boxers.
Nobody wants to see that.
Oh my God, Nick, we have to make that happen.
No, I don't think anybody wants to see that.
I think if we get enough comments on our social requesting that, it's something that you're going to have to do.
Nobody wants to see that.
What's the number? What do we got to get to? Come on, everybody's got a price, Nick. What's your number?
If we can get to 100 comments telling me that I need to do the George Costanza on the couch with a cigar, then fine, I'll go ahead and do that.
Can I take the picture and yell, "You're a lover boy, you're a lover boy"?
Oh, God.
I'm going to do my best Kramer.
100 comments, folks. Don't comment.
It's the timeless art of seduction.
This is not one to encourage. This is definitely not one that anybody wants to see.
Folks, you got to do me a favor and make this happen.
Final thoughts.
You said 100. I'm just gonna. We're on record.
We are on record. 100 comments.
If we can get 100 comments,
get 100 comments, I will acquiesce. And why you want this, I have no idea.
I love you, Nick.
And there it got creepy. There it got really creepy. So
no, I don't want you to deprive the listening audience of this photograph, and it will make our Instagram pop. I mean, it may get us shut down too because of the community standards. But
I might make some heads pop. That's for sure. But
well, I'm telling you, folks, you want to see the bishop in this pose.
I don't think that's accurate at all. Final thoughts on the Super Flyby Oscar.
A good cigar. It's not. It's not a go-to for me. It's not a cigar. I hate to admit this because I love the other cigars.
I can respect that because here's the thing, Jeff. When I purchased that big bag of cigars back a couple of weeks ago and told you that I had us stocked and ready for easily the first, dozen plus episodes, I knew that there were going to be cigars in that bag that you may not. I was taking you out of your comfort zone with some of them. I knew that some of them were going to be ones that you weren't going to appreciate fully, or maybe not appreciate, maybe not the word, that you weren't going to enjoy because it's not quite your cup of tea. But on the flip side,
but that's kind of the point of the podcast.
Exactly, and I fully expect that of the cigars that I purchased, there might be a handful in there that I smoke them and sit back and say, why did I buy this thing?
When we do our $3 cigar show, which is down the road.
That is down the road.
Yeah, we're going to do a quorum.
Boy, that's going to get interesting.
I happen to like the quorum. I'm a little bit more of a cheap smoker, though. It's a good road stick for me as I drive.
I love the Brick House by Newman, J.C. Newman, but I have tried a quorum a handful of different times, and every time I do, I have some sort of issue with it. But we'll get to that later. That
will be down the road. Keep listening.
So, folks, sorry if we got a little heavy with the politics this week, but the whole Instagram...
Choose truth over facts.
Well, the whole Instagram ad policy thing just really got in my craw, and I just had to talk about that. And then that just kind of spiraled us down a rabbit hole, but such is life. So
stop vaping.
Yeah, stop vaping. Well, we'll get to that another time.
Oh, my God, I've triggered Nick.
The giant conspiracy of the vaping industry.
I've triggered Nick.
Anyway, enjoy your cigar. This has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I am Nick, the Bishop of the Burn. With me,
Gator.
And don't forget to subscribe on any one of the various podcast platforms.
100 comments asking for the Costanza picture.
Send us some comments. Put up some reviews so that other people can find us. We really appreciate it. Until then, stay smoky, everyone.